it feels like magic. But in your brain, it looks like chaos. Your heart races, your pupils dilate, you feel invincible, like you've tapped into some divine energy. But your brain isn't falling, it's firing. A cocktail of chemicals floods your system: dopamine, norepinephrine, oxytocin, all designed to make one person feel like everything. Why? Why is this one person make you feel this way? And on the contrary, why can heartbreak hijack your body like an illness? Maybe love isn't just a feeling. Maybe it's an ancient survival code, still running quietly underneath every first kiss, every sleepless night, every irrational decision. Let's crack it open, not to ruin the mystery, but to deepen it. Because the closer we look at love, the more we realize. It's not only emotional, it's biological, evolutionary, and addictive as hell. You think you're falling in love? But what if you're just high on your own brain? What if love isn't a feeling, but an evolutionary trap? What if heartbreak hurts not because you're weak, but because you're wired to suffer? This isn't a story about romance. It's about biology, addiction, survival, and why nature turned attraction into obsession. Let's decode the science of love, and along the way ask, are we choosing love, or is love choosing us? My name is Oscar Emerson. Welcome to The Opening. Love is a mix of brain chemicals and mental illusions. Dr. Helen Fisher, a leading neuroscientist at Rutgers University, found that romantic love activates the brain's reward system, specifically the same pathways that light up when someone uses a drug like cocaine. That's dopamine at work, delivering motivation, obsession, and a feeling of high-stakes craving. But why this person? Why now? These are evolutionary questions. Love didn't evolve for poetry, it evolved for survival. The feeling of being madly in love may be nature's way of keeping two people close, long enough to reproduce, raise a child, and pass on their genes. And when you're in the middle of it, logic doesn't always help. Have you ever seen a friend fall for someone completely incompatible and no reasoning could break the spell? That's the brain on love, hijacked by ancient chemistry. It's like your mind is holding up a neon sign that says, "This one matters," even if your judgment quietly whispers, "Are you sure?" Some researchers call romantic love a natural addiction, not because it's harmful by default, but because it uses the same neural tricks: craving, focus, highs and lows. It's the emotional equivalent of standing at the edge of a cliff, terrifying, thrilling, impossible to ignore. Helen Fisher once described love as a basic mating drive, more powerful than the sex drive. Let that sink in. More powerful than lust itself. That suggests love isn't just a side effect of attraction. It might be the root system beneath the whole tree. Maybe love doesn't just find us. Maybe it builds us, piece by piece, bond by bond. So the question isn't, is love real? But rather, what kind of reality does it create inside of us? You know that moment when someone leaves you on read, and suddenly it's like the world has stopped spinning? Some would call it drama, but what it really is dopamine. Romantic obsession isn't really a poetic thing, it's brain chemistry gone wild. When you're in love, your brain zones in on one person like a laser. Every word they say matters. Every silence feels enormous. That hyperfocus? It's a feature, not a bug. In brain scans of people newly in love, the reward system lights up. Dopamine floods the system, just like it would if you took a drug or won a jackpot. But there's a twist. The same drop in serotonin that's found in people with obsessive-compulsive disorder is also found in people deeply in love. That's why you can't stop thinking about them. You replay their messages. You refresh their profile. You interpret every emoji like it's sacred scripture. Esther Perel, a Belgian psychotherapist and best-selling author who studies modern relationships, once said, "We tend to fall in love with someone who helps us complete a story we are already telling ourselves." Obsession might not just be about the other person. It might be about the mirror they hold up to you. You want them because they make you feel wanted, seen, significant. And this creates a loop. Reward, anticipation, doubt, relief. Over and over, like gambling, like social media, like addiction. So, are you really in love with the person or with the emotional lottery they represent? If love is a gamble, what happens when we raise the stakes even higher? We often say, love at first sight. But what if it's actually lust in disguise? Lust and love may feel similar, but neurologically, they light up different parts of the brain. Lust tends to be driven by testosterone and estrogen, our primal, reproductive urges. Romantic love, meanwhile, activates areas tied to reward, motivation, and even goal-directed behavior. Think of it this way. Lust is like fast food. It's hot, it's urgent, it satisfies a need, but it doesn't last long. Love is a slow-cooked meal. It builds over time, it nourishes, and it leaves you feeling full. And this difference matters, especially in our dating lives. You might feel intense attraction to someone and confuse it for compatibility. You might think great sex means deep connection. But in truth, the brain doesn't always distinguish clearly at first. And here's what's even more interesting. Touch, yes, even a gentle one, can trigger oxytocin, the so-called cuddle hormone. This creates feelings of trust and emotional closeness. It's like the body is making a down payment on a relationship before your mind catches up. That's why casual encounters can sometimes feel surprisingly emotional. Your body might be releasing attachment chemicals, even if your mind says it's just fun. Esther Perel observes, sex isn't just something we do. It's a place we go. It's a space where we express connection, identity, even healing. That makes lust more than biology. It's a kind of emotional theater. So, how do we tell them apart? Maybe we can't, at least not at the beginning. But over time, you may start to feel the difference. Lust asks, "Do I want you right now?" Love asks, "Can I grow with you even when things aren't perfect?" Have you ever seen someone drop everything, logic, plans, even common sense for love. Maybe you've done it yourself. But why do smart people do such irrational things when they're in love? The answer lies deep in our brains, specifically in what shuts down when we're in love, the prefrontal cortex. That's the part of your brain responsible for rational thinking, impulse control, and long-term planning. When romantic love surges, that region becomes less active. In other words, love quiets the voice of reason. Neuroscientist Helen Fisher found that in early-stage romantic love, the brain's ancient drive systems are fired up, craving obsession and reward, while the modern parts responsible for self-reflection and judgment dim down. This helps explain why we idealize our partners in the early stages. Their flaws, we barely notice. Red flags, we see them as quirks. It's like wearing rose-colored glasses, except they're wired directly into your nervous system. And it's more than poetic. It's practical and evolutionary. Our brains might be designed to help us bond quickly and deeply before doubt creeps in. But this also means we're more likely to ignore risks, deny incompatibilities, and rationalize poor decisions. So, is love making us wiser, or just sneakier in how we fool ourselves? And what happens when love matures and the brain fog disappears? Desire thrives in mystery, but long-term relationships often lean toward predictability. So how do couples sustain desire while building a life rooted in routine? Esther Perel calls this the erotic paradox. On one hand, we crave security, stability, and emotional safety. On the other hand, desire needs space, novelty, and a bit of the unknown. In long-term love, these needs often collide. You love the comfort of your partner, but comfort can smother erotic charge. You love the familiarity, but desire thrives on curiosity. One of Perel's most powerful insights is that fire needs air. That means giving your partner space to be themselves, to remain mysterious in small, healthy ways. Don't confuse this with playing games. It's about preserving individuality, which keeps the dynamic alive. Doing new things together also helps. Novel experiences stimulate the brain's dopamine system, the same system involved in early-stage romantic love. Travel, dance classes, spontaneous adventures. These create new memories and reawaken desire. And there's a deeper idea here too. Seeing your partner not just as a spouse or co-parent, but as a separate, evolving person. Someone with their own desires, dreams, and inner world. That perspective rekindles admiration. And where there's admiration, there's often attraction. So maybe desire doesn't die in long-term love. Maybe it just waits for us to reintroduce ourselves to each other. I like that thought a lot. So, let's take this a step further. If falling in love is an evolutionary process that helped us bond and survive, can we control who we fall in love with? The short answer, not entirely. But there's more nuance to it than pure chance or fate. Romantic attraction doesn't follow a universal recipe. It's influenced by timing, proximity, past experiences, childhood attachments, and unconscious emotional needs. Sometimes we fall for someone not because they're perfect, but because they activate an unfinished story inside us. Psychologists call this the imago, an internal image of love shaped by early relationships. If someone reminds us of how it felt to be seen or ignored as a child, that resonance can pull us in. It's not always logical. In fact, it rarely is. We might say we want stability but keep choosing drama. We say we want kindness but chase intensity. The heart doesn't follow bullet points. But awareness can give you some power. If you understand your patterns, you can slow them down. You can ask, is this chemistry or a familiar chaos? Esther Perel puts it this way: we don't always choose who we're attracted to, but we can choose how we respond to that attraction. So can you control who you fall in love with? Not completely, but you can learn to love with more clarity and less autopilot. And most importantly, once you're in love, how do you stay there? If falling in love is a kind of madness, staying in love is more like a craft. It's easy to be swept up in the hormonal fireworks of a new romance. But what does it take to keep that connection burning over years or even decades? Helen Fisher's research has scanned the brains of people who've been married for 20 years and still say they're madly in love. Shockingly, their reward systems, the same that light up during new love, still show strong activity. What's their secret? Consistency, novelty, emotional regulation. Those long-term lovers often show increased activity in parts of the brain responsible for empathy, emotional self-control, and something Fisher calls positive illusions, the ability to focus on what you adore about someone and blur out the small annoyances. You might think that's delusional, but it's really for survival. Psychiatrist and psychoanalyst and columnist Dr. Gail Saltz points out that sharing values and life goals cuts down on daily friction in a relationship. Opposites can spark attraction, but lasting partnerships flourish on a foundation of open communication, compromise, and genuine curiosity. You don't need to agree on everything, but you do need to know how to disagree well. So maybe the real trick isn't about never arguing, but knowing which arguments matter. And when you've found the right person, how do you keep the spark from dimming? How do you keep love alive? Here's the not-so-sexy answer: effort. Esther Perel emphasizes that desire needs space to thrive. Too much closeness can smother erotic energy. To want, we must feel the other person as separate, mysterious, even if just a little. That's why doing new things together is so powerful. Novelty fuels dopamine, the brain chemical behind excitement and romantic craving. It doesn't have to be skydiving. It could be cooking a new recipe, taking a different route to the park, reading each other poetry in bed. Also, touch matters. A lot. Sex, cuddling, holding hands, a brush on the arm. All these acts flood the body with oxytocin, reinforcing feelings of trust and safety. Couples who prioritize affectionate touch often report greater satisfaction and deeper connection. And don't underestimate small gestures. A study Helen Fisher helped lead found that people in happy, long-term marriages were more likely to say simple, kind things every day. Even something as basic as "thank you for making coffee" can act like relationship glue. So, what's the formula? Novelty plus touch plus kindness? Not rocket science. Still, is all this effort even worth it in the long run? The science says maybe. Our brains contain systems for lust, romantic love, and deep attachment. These can overlap, but they can also fade or evolve at different rates. That's why someone can feel close to their partner, but no longer desire them, or still crave them, but feel emotionally distant. Esther Perel frames it beautifully. We are all navigating the tension between our need for security and our need for adventure. So, are we wired for lifelong monogamy? Evolution doesn't demand it, but culture often does. And the brain is flexible. It can adapt, especially when we nurture those love systems intentionally. Fisher's studies show that with the right emotional care, brain scans of long-term couples can look strikingly similar to those of new lovers. The spark isn't automatic, but it is renewable. The key might not be to love perfectly, but to love actively. So what does the science of love really tell us? That love is not just a feeling, it's a set of systems. Hormones, habits, and hopes all working together. A process perfected for survival over millions of years of evolution. It's messy, miraculous, maddening. And it's one of the most human things we do. And maybe that's why, despite the risks and confusion and heartbreak, we keep doing it. Because to love is to be alive. Since you've made it this far, I invite you to take a few more quiet moments to reflect on some of the ideas we've explored in this episode. We often say, love at first sight. But what if it's actually lust in disguise? Sex isn't just something we do, it's a place we go. Obsession might not just be about the other person. It might be about the mirror they hold up to you. We are all navigating the tension between our need for security and our need for adventure. We tend to fall in love with someone who helps us complete a story we are already telling ourselves. If you've enjoyed this essay, please consider subscribing to The Opening.